one of the very first books dealing with the bridge between biblical Hebrew and its modern counterpart of today, was published in 1960 under the title How the Hebrew Language Grew. In it, the author highlights some very interesting facts, one of which is the relationship between nouns and verbs in the Hebrew language. He argues that the verb came out of the noun rather than the reverse. Historically, the present tense form of a verb, the po'el, was originally a noun. This noun form indicated the steady and continuous exercise or the performance of an action, and therefore, for example, if a shomer was one who watched regularly, then the verb format extended from that shomer to I have watched, I will watch, shamartish, eshmor. Similarly, a kotev was a person who was a writer. This is what the person did. And from that noun evolved the verb. It was only much later, when Hebrew needed a present tense form, that they logically used the po'el for this purpose. Nowadays, with respect to verbs, in Hebrew at least, we have the 7 binyamin, 3 of them active, 3 of them passive, 1 reflexive. But it seems, in classical Hebrew, there was one other binyan, the MAKOR. The term MAKOR translates as a source, a basis, a foundation, that functioned as a kind of stem cell from which all other forms of verbs derived. Just as a stem cell can morph into a wide variety of cells used by the body, so too the MAKOR was a source that evolved into either a noun, a verb, or an adjective. When Rashi in his commentary to Devarim 31 links the word lakoach to Zachor, Shamor, and Haloch, both the Mizrahi and the Siftei Chachamim maintained that Rashi is forewarning that the word lakoach is not to be understood as a command, take this Sefer Torah, but rather a subset of the present tense, an action that was to be ongoing, linking the present with the future, that the acceptance of this Sefer Torah was to be an ongoing event, in that by placing it next to the Aron, it will be a constant testimony of God's interaction with man for future generations. To this, the Rebbe asked 4 questions when comparing this commentary to similar commentaries of Rashi to psukim elsewhere in the Chumash. In contrast to the Siftei Chachamim and the Mizrahi, the Rebbe maintains that the word lakoach is a makor, a stem cell form of a verb, one that has the potential to morph into a variety of options, one of which happens to be a command. Accordingly, and as a command, there was no need for a pitron, an explanation of the pasuk, and as a makor/command, was there any need for a definition, as was the case with tzaror, lashon hoveh. With respect to the issue with the misplaced link, the lakoach, the acceptance of the Sefer Torah, was a one-time event. The ongoing aspect of the Sefer Torah came not from the lakoach, but rather resulted from its placement alongside the Aron. With respect to question 3, the sequence of examples that Rashi provides, Shmot, Devarim, and Bereshit, the Rebbe maintains that the haloch used by Rashi as an example for the lakoach refers not to the haloch of Bereshit, the incident with Noach, but rather to a pasuk in the final perek of Shmuel Bet, where David HaMelech is forced to choose one of 3 tragedies that were to befall the nation. God tells the prophet, Haloch v'dibarta el David, a makor format that is a command. In this way, the sequence, according to the Rebbe's reading of Rashi, is not Shmot Devarim Bereshit, but rather Shmot Devarim Shmuel Bet. The only problem with this thesis is the fact that Rashi in the commentary references Bereshit rather than the pasuk from Sefer Shmuel. To this, one could respond that the sources recorded were added at a later date, and in this case the printer erroneously assumed that Rashi was referring to Bereshit when in effect he was referring to the pasuk found in Sefer Shmuel Bet.